Greetings. Listen, there is no reason that I make these videos. There's no reason at all. You are welcome to make up whatever reason or explanation that you want. And it won't be true. There's also no reason for you to watch these videos. You won't get anything out of it. You won't understand anything about it. You won't figure out the mystery. Because there's just nothing to figure out. It's just what it is. There's nothing else about it. There's nothing secret about this. It's just what it is. Even though it's actually more true to say that it isn't anything. That's more true. This isn't anything. It's not a video. It's not even an experience. This is not an experience. I mean, look at it. Look at what's going on. Look at what seems to be going on and see if you can actually find it. Can you actually pinpoint what this is? And I'm not talking about an interpretation. If you want to say this is a video, that's an interpretation. I mean what, in the immediate sense, what is this immediately? Any concept that you want to try and reduce this to is empty because it's based on a bunch of other imaginary concepts that are themselves empty. And I'm actually not talking about one part of reality in comparison to a different part of reality. For instance, I'm not talking about, for instance, my YouTube channel versus other YouTube channels. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that my YouTube channel is nothing, whereas some other YouTube channels might be something. I'm saying everything is nothing. And I'm not saying that, for instance, this experience is irreducible, whereas other experiences are reducible. I'm not saying that this is a special thing that you can't grasp, whereas other things you can grasp. I'm actually saying that there are no things that can be grasped. And I'm saying there's no one to do any grasping. And there never has been. So in that sense, I'm not talking about a this in comparison to something else. I'm not talking about this moment in comparison to other moments. There is no actual difference between this moment and other moments, because in fact, there are no other moments, nor is there even this moment. There is not a moment here. There is not a present moment. There's not a present. There is not a past, a future, or a present. There isn't time. There is not time. Give me a break. Come on. Show me time. Where is it? Or when is it, you know? It never has been. Never will be. And yet, paradoxically, there appears to be talking about it, but there's actually not. If you look, but actually you don't even have to look. You don't have to look at all. You don't have to look for anything. For time to stop existing, for time to stop. Because there isn't any to begin with. There's not a continuous self that has a past and a future, that could realize something, that could realize the absence of itself, because it actually, is no self whatsoever, and there's no condition of the self. There is no condition of having a self or being a self. It could be said that there appears to be a self, but that's not even true. There doesn't actually appear anything. Nothing actually appears. There's nothing perceived. There's no perceiver. There's no perception. There's no perception. There's no experience. There's no communication. There is no communication happening right now. There's no speaking, there's no hearing, there's no understanding. There's no knowing. There isn't actually anything. There aren't thoughts. There is nothing. And there's only nothing. There never has been something. There isn't anything real. There is no reality. And nothing actually needs to change, because in fact there isn't change. There is nothing that could change. Nor is there anything constant or static, because there is nothing. And in fact, the nothing is so nothing that it's not even something. Like, there's not even nothing as a something. It's not apprehendable as a something. Nothing is not apprehendable. It's not perceivable. It's not comprehensible. This is not comprehensible. This is not graspable. It's not understandable. Nothing can be done. Nothing is ever done. This doesn't have any relation to anything else, because there isn't anything else. If you feel like you're misunderstanding or not understanding, that's fine. Because that is, that's really all that can seem to happen. In fact, the only apparent reality, and this is a mistake to say, this is kind of wrong to say, but I just for the sake of argument, just to speak something incorrect, because that's the only thing that can be spoken, are untruths. To proceed, but not, there's no, procession actually. It's kind of a joke, but the only apparent reality is misunderstanding. For anything to be perceived as real, it must be incompletely understood. It must be misunderstood. And in fact, everything is always misunderstood. Because there is no actual understanding. Because there isn't anything, because there is nothing, and nothing cannot be perceived, it cannot be experienced, it cannot be understood. There's only misunderstanding. There's only misperception. There's only misinterpretation. There's only contradiction. There's only misapprehension. That's all that there is. Now, I know you want me to explain clearly. You want to understand. You want me to give examples. So that what's being talked about here can, correspond to actual reality, to hard, solid reality. to what's really real. That's what you want. For me to give examples. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. And either way, everything being said here is not true. Nothing being said here is true. And nothing that could possibly be said could be true at all. Everything said is incorrect. Everything said is a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation. Or if we want to, speak a little more generously, an incomplete understanding. But also, what I just said isn't true either. In fact, nothing is actually said. There is no speaking here. There is no talking. There is no hearing. There is no understanding. There is no experience. There is no such thing as correct or incorrect. It can be said that it seems like there's speaking here, but there actually isn't. There's nothing actually seeming. Nothing actually is appearing. Nothing is appearing, but it's actually not. It doesn't. It can't. It can only kind of disappear, but doesn't actually, because it was never, it was never there in the first place. Something easy, anything that seems like solid truth, anything that seems true, is a total misunderstanding. Anything that has ever seemed true has been a total misunderstanding. Misunderstanding is what constitutes truth, which is to say that there is no truth. Truth is an enfoldment of untruth. Knowledge is an enfoldment of unknowing, of the unknowable. Reality is an enfoldment of nothing. The substrate of truth is untruth. Truth is completely composed of untruth. It's empty. Knowing is completely composed of unknowing. Knowing is the unknowable not knowing itself. When the unknowable doesn't know itself, which is always because it can't, the unknowable cannot know itself because it can't be known and it can't know. It seems to create knowing. Because what knowing is an obscuration of the unknowable. It is the unknowable hiding from itself. It's not really hiding, it's just the fact that it can't be seen, it can't be known, ever. And so, the unknowing, the not knowing of the unknowable amounts to seeming to know something. There isn't actually oneness. There isn't actually an absolute. Because there could not be a oneness, there could not be a one or an absolute without a subject to know or perceive or experience it. Thus, there could not be a one without there being at least two. And if there are two, then there could not be one. There could not be either, there cannot be either two nor one. There cannot be the many, there cannot be the subject or the object. There's only nothing. There's no absolute. There's only nothing. And nothing is so nothing that it can't even be known. It can't even be known about. And this is why the many appear. This is why the world appears and the subject appears. This is why the object and the subject appear. They aren't actual. They aren't real. But nonetheless, they appear because the nothing is so nothing that it cannot even be itself. Do you see what I'm saying? Nothing cannot be. Nothing is There is nothing, and it is so nothing. It is so profoundly nothing that it cannot even exist. It cannot even be. And hence, the appearance of something. The appearance of something. And yet, there appears to be something, and when there appears to be, something, which there can only be something if there are at least two, the object and the subject. Object, subject. And both are illusory, and this is always, the illusoriness of them is always found when you go for one, when you go towards either one, either way you go. You try to grab the world, you try to find something solid in the world, and it's always revealed to be empty, impermanent, unfulfilling, without actual substance. Any way you go about it. And maybe we'll get to some examples later on, even though that's like feels like an even more compromised way of speaking. But there's only a compromised way of speaking. Speaking can only be compromised. And then if you go try to find the subject, find the self, you try and go in and find the real self, the real me, and it's always revealed to be empty. You cannot find it. Ever. You can't find anything there. And yet, there seems to be this appearance. Like there seems to be the specific, the specific manifestation. Like why the specific, this question, why me specifically? And yet actually, there is no specificity. There actually is no identity. The apparent specificity of self is only a reflection of the apparent world. And the apparent specificity of the world is only a reflection of the apparent self. And when they are summed together, which is what life is, the answer is zero. The answer is nothing. And this is always. This isn't like something that needs to be done. It's not something that can be done. There's no doer. There's nothing done. It always has been, always will be. And that's also a compromised way of speaking, because actually never has been anything, nor will be anything, nor is anything. There is not anything. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to realize anything. You don't need to understand anything. You don't need to know anything. You can't, because there's no you in the first place. There's nothing that can be understood. There's nothing that can be known. There's nothing that can be done. There's only this apparent this. Which is false, you know? There's not even this. There's not even this. You know? Where's something? Where's something? Show me something. Show me this. Where is it and when is it? Where and when is this? Where is here? Show me here. There's no here. And this isn't an end to anything. This is not an end to anything. Nothing ends. There is no time. There never has been time. There very seriously is no death. There is no death because there is no life. There is no self. There is no time. Death is only a component of the illusion that is life. The illusion of life is only composed of other illusory stories that are all empty in their own right. Cells, molecules, atoms. You look for the reality in any of these, and they turn out empty. the the apparent solidity in anything in the world, any object perceived, apparently perceived, you know that reality is looked for, grasped after. The apparent objective reality is grasped after to try and find what is actually fundamentally real about it, because we keep realizing that every single level of what we thought was real about objective reality is not real, and so we go further and further looking for the solidity at the base of it all. And just for an example, in like quantum physics, you find that there is no base. There's no base reality, because it comes back to perception. It's like you find that what objective reality absolutely depends on to even appear is subjectivity, is the subject, the observer. But then you look for the observer, and the observer can't be found either. There's no subject. There's no subject. Objective reality is only appears because it's a reflection of subjective reality, of subjecthood, and neither can be found. And everything in between, all the layers of interpretation, are nothing but misunderstanding, misinterpretation, which is perfectly natural, because that's all that can seem to be. All that can seem to be is an interpretation, a misapprehension. Take any concept, take any system of thought, take any system of organization of the world, any paradigm, and see what it is. Is like a reduction, as in it has no substance. It is not the whole. It is not it is an abstraction from reality. It only seems to kind of point to something else. You take any system of thought, and what do those concepts do? Like, all they do is seem to point towards reality, and then if you actually look to where they point to, you find that the reality that was pointed to does not exist, and that the concept that was pointing to it is completely empty. That knowledge is completely empty. And that's completely normal. It's not like knowledge is like a mistake just committed by humankind. In fact, there is no, even the concept of humankind is equally empty. Like, that can't even be found. This is not a positioning of one belief system over another belief system, because there is no belief system that has any substance, and there's in fact no base reality, because there is no reality at all. There is nothing. And in fact, there aren't even beliefs. There is no belief system. There never has been. Even the only apparent belief system is another belief, another story. There is no actual knowledge. There's not even the appearance of knowledge. What would ostensibly appear to be some external system of knowledge out there, you know, science, religion, whatever it is there anything more to that than the idea of it? The idea that it exists at somewhere, that there is Christianity, or that there is something called physics. Is there any reality to that other than some thought present in your mind? And then look towards that thought, and that thought doesn't even exist. It doesn't exist right now. There's no thought even exists right now. There's no looking. No looking even exists. No subjectivity. No objectivity. Nothing. There is no subjectivity. There is no self. There's no selfhood. There's no manifestation. There's not even an apparent self. And this is not truth. There is no truth here. There's no wisdom here or anywhere. There is nothing but nothing. There's nothing being said here. There is no language. This is not language. There is no perception. Nothing is being perceived. There is no problem. There is no problem. Except it could be said that everything is problematic. That there's only a problem. In the sense that nothing can be solved or figured out. And that nothing is so pervasive, you could say. It is so all there is that it can't be an answer. That it can't be resolved. It can't be final in any way because it can't exist. And so this is nothing not existing. And this is not an answer. This is not an understanding. And nothing needs to be said or done, and in fact, nothing is. There's nothing being said or done here. And nothing is true about this, actually. There is no truth about this. There's no truth to this, or to anything. There's nothing that could possibly said that would contain any truth. Because there just isn't any. There isn't any truth. Nothing is going to be arrived at. There's nothing for you here, and there's nothing for me here. And there's nothing for you or me anywhere. There's nothing to get. Neither materially or spiritually or intellectually. There's nothing that could be gotten. There's no one that can get anything. There isn't anyone. And there's no need to say anything. There isn't anything that's important. And it doesn't mean that... This doesn't mean that, like, one thing is unimportant while something else is, for instance. This doesn't mean nihilism. Because nihilism would imply that there is a self that is able to go on living without any morality. And that's not the case. There just isn't anyone to live anyway, because there isn't life. There isn't life. And so this just doesn't have implications for morality. This doesn't have any implications for morality or what a person should do or shouldn't do, or what a person should even think or not think, or believe or not believe. It just does not matter. There aren't any people. And like, that might sound funny if you're thinking of the existence of a reality without people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is no reality. I'm saying that there's no anything. There's no anything. So it's not that certain things like morals, value, etc. don't exist while something else continues to exist. It's that there's nothing. Nothing exists. And yet it doesn't even exist. Because it can't by its nature. It's complete paradox. It's complete paradox. There's only paradox. There is only contradiction. It's like this cannot even be. Anything said here cannot even be, cannot be true, including this. It's the nothing is so nothing that it's paradoxical. The nothing is so non-existent that it doesn't even exist, and so here apparently is this here, and yet this here isn't. And so it's like, it's kind of, you could kind of say that, you know, the problems aren't real. You know, all these problems that ultimately stem from death, right? Like all problems are derivative of the problem of death. And because there is no death, because there is no life, because there is no self, there is no problem. But that doesn't mean you get to say that everything's fine for me or you. That doesn't work. Everything's fine for no one, for nothing. In the case of nothingness, there's no problem. But it can just equally be said to be only problem. Like nothing is only problem, and there isn't anything else, so it's fine. Because there's no possibility of solution. There's no possibility of anything other than problem. And so it's ultimately fine. But not for an individual. Like an individual. For an individual. You know, existence, apparent existence, is a problem. It is a problem because it is equal to death, you know. To apparently manifest as an individual, and to apparently exist in time, and to like that there is a present and a past and a future means death. And so existence is inherently problematic. But there is no existence. Not at all. And so in that sense there is no problem. But you know, this is all untrue. This is all nothing but interpretation of nothing, which is misinterpretation. This is all misapprehension. This is all really empty. This is all nothing. Nothing. There's nothing substantial being said here. There's nothing being said at all here. There's no here. There's no this. This isn't correct. This isn't wise. This isn't true. This isn't insight. This isn't insightful. Because there are no such things as insight, as wisdom, as truth. There simply aren't. There are no answers. Including this. this doesn't help anything. There's no helping. There's no helping. This is only misinterpreted. It only can be misinterpreted. Reality is only a misinterpretation because nothing because there is no truth. This isn't applicable. This isn't any kind of prescription. There's not anything actually being communicated. This doesn't mean anything needs to be changed. There's no actual stance. There's no actual position. There's no perspective. This is not a perspective. There's no continuity. Of any kind. And you know, it's like you can't do anything with this. There's not something else that this can be applied to. There's not an outside world for this to be like applied to. There's not a self there for like this to enrich in some way. There's not a self that can be enriched. There's like, you know, this doesn't claim to be true. There's no truth claim here. Not even this. Not even what I just said. Not even what I just said, which was that there's no truth claim here. That's not even true either. Nothing said here is possibly true. No response is true. And this, you know, this wasn't ever true to begin with. There never has been any truth. Truth, apparent truth, is untruth. Even, you know, it's like there isn't actually any apparent truth. Like, that in itself is untrue. To even talk about appearance is untrue. To even talk about the apparent is untrue. There's no apparent. And there's nothing here to matter, you know? This doesn't matter. There's not even a this here to matter. And this isn't good either. This doesn't lead to a good feeling or a bad feeling. I mean, it might lead to a bad feeling. It's possible. You know, or it could be misinterpreted as leading towards relaxation, you know, a letting go. That, like, it could be misinterpreted. This could be misinterpreted as a letting go of everything. But that's not really true, because there's nothing held on to begin with, and there is no time. There's no time, and so there's no change, there's no progress, there's no movement. There's no relaxation, there's no contraction. There aren't actually emotions. There's, you know, there is the misapprehension of emotions. It's like I almost don't even want to say apparent emotions, because it feels too wrong. I mean, come on. Or don't. You don't have to come on. There just isn't death. There just isn't. Come on. Well, don't come on. It's fine. This isn't like, you know, this isn't any kind of admonition that you should be lazy or do nothing because nothing has to be done. I'm just laying down here, you know, and I'm speaking falsely here. I'm just like going ahead to speak falsely because that's the only kind of speaking that can exist anyways. And I'm a lot, you know, I'm not actually doing anything. There's not actually anything happening here. Like, I'm not actually just lying down here. I'm not actually just a little sleepy. Because there's no I. Come on! Don't. I mean, like, don't. You don't, there's nothing to, you don't have to realize anything. There's nothing to realize. Actually, everything said is pretty much wrong. Everything said is pretty much wrong. So it's like, you know, it's like disregard everything, including any kind of admonition to disregard. It's all untrue. This is all untrue, including this statement. Every statement, including this one, is untrue. Nothing needs to be done here. Nothing needs to be said. There's nothing to get from this. There's no reason to watch this video. There's actually no video. There's no watching. There's no you. There's no me. There is no video. There's no watching. There's no viewership. There's no perception. There's no time. There is nothing. There's no existence. There is no existence. There's only nothingness, misunderstanding itself. And that misunderstanding is not a problem. It's just what has to be. There actually is no problem with suffering. Because suffering is not real. Neither is any opposite to suffering. No, like peace is not real. Like a gain, like any kind of gain or improvement is not real. This may sound like nihilism, but it's not. Because the idea of nihilism would be that there is a person who could accept a nihilistic belief and then enjoy their life, blithely going about the world doing harm without any sense of moral responsibility because of their nihilistic belief system. That's not the case, because there's no life, there's no individual, there's nothing to be gained from nihilism. There's not a real enjoyment to be had in the same way that there's not actual suffering to be had. There isn't the right or wrong. And this isn't to say that the nihilism would then be right. That's not true either. Nothing is right. And nothing is wrong in the moralistic sense. But everything is wrong in terms of truth. And when I, like, by saying everything is wrong, that's also false, because, like, that idea of wrong actually implies that there's an inverse, that there's a truth. That it might sound like I'm saying that everything is wrong because there is a more fundamental truth. And actually that's not the case. There's no fundamental truth. There's no truth whatsoever, including this that I'm saying. And I'm not actually saying anything because there's no I and there's no actual saying, there's no hearing, there's no perception, there's no understanding, there's no experience. There's not a greater self. There's not a higher self. There's no self. There isn't actually a like baseline like awareness. There's no awareness. There's no levels. There's no like higher level of awareness. It's just not the case. There's nothing to seek for. There's no solution. There's no relief. And because there's no problem. Or it can be said that there's only relief and there's only problem. And that what's to look for, what's to seek for, is what's doing the seeking, is this already, which is nothing. There actually isn't any seeking. And there's no like rest, you know. There's no like resting place that you would come to. There's no peaceful ending that you would come to, because the very notion of you, the very notion of something to experience resting state, the notion of a something to experience peace is like oxymoronic. It's like the very notion of there being something at all that could experience something else is itself separation. The idea of unity that could be experienced is oxymoronic. Unity cannot be experienced. The idea of experience itself implies duality. The idea of experience itself implies that there must be a subject to do the experiencing and a something else to be experienced. And this is just totally false. There's no, and so there's no unity that could be ever experienced. And so there is no unity at all. There's only nothing. There's only nothing. And because nothing also cannot experience, it can't experience itself or anything else, there appears to be something. And by the appearance of something, there is inherently the appearance of the experiencer. By the appearance of there existing anything, that necessitates the appearance of subject and object. Both of which are completely illusory. And what it is just nothing not experiencing itself. It's nothing not knowing itself. It is unknowing. Apparent experience, apparent reality, apparent knowing is unknowing. It's no one unknowing itself. And so the misunderstanding of things is all there can be. There's no alternative to the misapprehension of nothing. There's no alternative to untruth. There's no alternative to illusion. There's no end of anything. There isn't any end of seeking either. There isn't actual fulfillment. Like even if you know, even if we make a judgment and say like, you know, well, you know, the obviously, you know, the material things are empty, so I won't be a materialist. I'll go towards more high-minded values, like spirituality, etc. There's still actually no fulfillment there. It's just empty. There's no fulfillment anywhere. There's no solidity anywhere. There's no reality anywhere. It's just a nothingness that keeps going. You could say. You could say it keeps going. It doesn't actually keep going because there's no time or anywhere for it to go. But like the concept of time is another like misapprehension of nothingness. It's like it's because, like, you know, because there isn't actually a now that can actually be grasped or experienced. Like you can't actually be in the moment. There is no moment. And so kind of like out of that absence appears like an extension of that absence, which is the past and the future. So this is an idea that there's another time that's not now, where something either was or will be, or more importantly could be. Where you know, like that was now is the idea, or that'll be now, the future. You know, the future, that's when there'll be something, you know, that's when there'll be an actual experience in the future. That's when now will be. You know, it's like, it's not now that, like, there's no, like, now isn't now, because you can't actually grab it or do anything with it, or even experience it, or like apprehend any kind of solidity to it, any kind of actuality to it. I mean, just like you look for it and you don't find it. There's only absence in both the looked for and the looker. And so it's like out of that absence, like, springs forth like this idea of time as sort of like to try and make up for that absence, a past and a future, both stories, you know, to try and make up for this absence. This story appears where something was and something will be or could be. And obviously neither exist, nor does anything now or here. And then, like, it's like the same thing spatially, you know? It's like there is no here. And out of the absence of here springs forth this illusion of a somewhere else. Because you look for here, what, like, where is here? Is it like, where's here, you know? Is it my body is here? Is it the spot behind my eyes is where here is? Like there's some, is there an infinitely small point somewhere inside my brain, supposedly, that is where the here is? Like, all of that is totally illusory. That's all a story, and it can't be found. No here can be found. No subject can be found. No perceiver can be found. No I can be found. So no here can be found. No locality. No locality can actually be found. It is only a story that is created like along in opposition to a there. Like, there's a somewhere else. Like that, like, you know, you can't, because you can't find the here. This story arises to try to make up for that absence with like a perceived something. Like, oh, there must be something there then, you know. And if there, you know, it's like, and if there's something there, then it means there's something here. And if there's something here, then it means there's something there. It's like they're stories that need each other, that create each other. And if you actually try to find it, they're both empty. Like, you try to find the here, it's not there. If you try to go there, and you try to make there become here, it's just the emptiness perpetuating. So neither exists. So it's just like, that's just the spatial component of the time thing, and both are just complete stories. Like, space and time. There's no space. There's no time. And it's fine. Like, the appearance of those stories, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's not like a mistake. Or like, you could say it's a mistake, but it's fine that is a mistake, because mistakes are all that could exist. And by exist, I'm, you know, the scare quotes are enormous here. All that could seem to exist. But there's even like scare quotes around the seem, because like it only seems to seem to exist. It only seems to seem to exist. And the seems are infinite. They go in infinite regress. Like, appearance is an infinite regress. As in, I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna say reality, you have to put an infinite number of appearance in a row before reality. Because there isn't actually apparent reality. There's no actual appearance. It's like it's kind of as if oops. It's kind of as if like reality just appears just enough, or it's as if there's just enough appearance in order to indicate the existence of nothing. And you know, this is totally compromised thing to say. This is not. This is untrue in so many ways, on so many levels. There aren't actually levels, but because nothing or nothingness, whatever, however you want to say, cannot exist, and it cannot exist and it cannot be experienced. Something seems to arise just enough to kind of like just enough to kind of like point towards the nothingness, if you will. I mean, this is all total interpretation, i.e. misinterpretation. As is this whole video, as is everything that I say, including this. But it's like, you know, one, it could be misinterpreted to say that apparent reality only seemed that, you know, exists with big scare quotes around it, in order to indicate the nothing. But it's not true, because it's like, indicate to who, you know? There's no one. It's not like there's any kind of intention or reason here. It's not like there's nothingness that like has any kind of like intention. Or that like it's not like nothing like needs to like appear to someone. Like it doesn't actually. And you know, this makes no sense whatsoever. This makes no sense. Like nothing, you know, nothing makes no sense. appearance is the shadow of nothing. Appearance is even appearance, apparent reality, what seems real and solid, is the shadow of nothingness. It is even less of nothing than nothing. It is even less than nothing. And hence, it's like apparent realness. Truth, knowing, the self, the world, is the shadow of nothing. It is less than nothing. It is less nothing than nothingness. And hence its apparent somethingness. This does not make sense. This cannot make sense. And there's nothing important to say. There's nothing that needs to be said. There's no reason for any of this to be happening. There's no reason for any of this to be said. And there's no reason for something else to happen. There's no reason to do something else. There's not, in fact, anything else to do. just nothing to do. It's like I can almost get comfortable here. I can get almost comfortable. Which, you know, is like life. Is that at best you can get almost comfortable. But you can never, you know, get like 100% comfort. You can never get 100% peace, fulfillment, whatever it is. You never come 100% to rest, a resting state. Because even the idea of that is empty. Like it falsifies itself. Like the idea that there could be the separate individual, the separate autonomous individual that could be experiencing something such as complete peace, complete rest, is oxymoronic, because like it still implies it implies a lot of things. It implies time, you know, that there is like that there is like a stretch of time over which one could have an experience. It implies the separation between the self, the experiencer, and the experienced, and it implies that there is such a thing as experience itself. You know, and it's like not even, you know, not even death either. It's like not like, you know, it's not like it's not like you're separate now and then when you die you rejoin the whole. That is, you know, like, you know, that is a misperception, which is, you know, it's, and as we've been seeing here, misperception is the norm. It is standard. It's actually all that can be, and so it's fine. But it's actually that there is no you already, there is no whole already, there is no unified whole already. There's actually just nothing not understanding itself. But, you know, it's like this don't even need to say this. It's like all like this is already like projecting out all kinds of not ill-conceived, just like incorrect premises. Like every single premise that is involved in every single statement that's apparently being said here is completely empty. There's absolutely there's no grain of truth anywhere in what's being said. It is all completely empty, as is everything else. There is nothing. There is no anything else, and there is nothing being said. There's not even an experience here. There's only nothing. And yet nothing is like so nothing that it can't even be only. You know? It's all paradox. Everything is so paradoxical, so completely paradoxical, that it doesn't even exist. And yet, and its non-existence is so paradoxical that its non-existence doesn't even exist. And I can go out on a limb here by saying that you can just stop trying to understand. But that is going out on a limb because you actually can't stop. For a number of reasons, a number of non-reasons. Because there was no understanding in the first place. There's no actual trying in the first place. There's no you in the first place. And to stop, there's nothing to stop. Like this it's like there's neither any, because there's no stopping, you know. There's no state of rest. There's no actual state at all. And so, like, I can again, like, it's like at the same time the continuous trying to understand is also just fine. It's like just completely natural. Because there isn't actually like an alternative to trying to figure it out. I don't think. or like, I mean, not necessarily trying to figure it out, but there's no alternative to incompleteness. There's no like complete state. There's no complete option. Is what I'm saying. I mean, like, or alternately, it could be said that like it's already complete, or that completeness is all that there is, and it's actually like, you know, completeness or incompleteness. These are like either of these are completely meaningless, or you know, yeah, incompletely meaningless. Either the concepts of completeness or incompleteness, both are meaningless. The concept of meaning or meaningless, meaning and meaningless, are both meaningless. there aren't any perspectives. There's no perspective. I'm almost comfortable here. Can never quite get totally comfortable. guess we could walk a bit. No reason not to. There's no consistency, you know? There's nothing, because there's no continuity of anything. There's not actually such a thing as consistency. There's no consistency nor difference. Like, both of those are meaningless concepts, in fact. I mean, not in fact, but like, you know, as untruth in non-fact. Or in one sense, it could seem that there's inconsistency, but there's no actual consistency to begin with. Let me just take a whiz before we walk some. Just trying to see if this is all poison ivy vines or not. You know, what is this? What is it? It's nothing. Try not to, like, you know, directly film people. It really isn't anything. There's just nothing going on. It's never not nothing. Which is, you know, it's like essentially the same as saying that, like, nothing ever is. Like, you could say nothing is, and it's just as meaningless as saying, like, nothing isn't. Like, either way is meaningless. There really just isn't any content. Nor a container. There's so many people here. I think it's like, well, it's distracting, I guess. But I guess that's fine. It's like reality just is distraction. You know, apparent reality is just like distraction from nothingness, but it's not a distraction that has substance. It's just like in the transit, in the absence of looking closely at something, there seems to be something. But in the looking closely at anything, there is nothing. You could say, it could be said. It's not actually said. It's not actually said. Nothing is said. Ugh. We're not getting anywhere here. But we can, you know, continue to not get anywhere. We don't actually, there's no actual continuity. There's really just no takeaway. There's no takeaway at all. And like this isn't the takeaway either. It isn't the takeaway that there's no takeaway. There's no summary. There's no encapsulation. There's nothing to be summarized or encapsulated. But it's actually, you know, it's like, it's as if like, if there's anything, it's only capsules of capsules. It's only a ongoing. It's only an ongoing nesting doll of encapsulation with nothing at the center. But also there isn't even the encapsulation either. There aren't any nested levels actually. there's no satisfactory ending. There's no satisfaction. I mean, it could be said that, I don't know. No. Nothing can be said. Nothing can be said. Nothing is said. This seems like a perfectly unsatisfactory point at which to stop this video. So until next time, bye. Or, you know, there's no reason not to keep going. Look at this. What the hell is going on here? We're just going for no reason. There's no reason for this. This isn't anything other than what it is. But it isn't anything at all. This is like beyond pointless. Everything is beyond pointless. Well, I mean, they're just isn't there isn't such a thing as a point or a reason. It's just like confusion now, you know? This is just kind of confusion. And this is even like a more confused confusion. You know? It's like when things get too clear, and when confusion becomes too clear, that confusion is just the state of things, then it's just necessary to confuse it a little bit, or it just happens, you know? It's not really necessary, it just happens. It's just like we confuse that confusion a little bit, and then in that confused confusion there appear like little things that seem to make sense, like there's just little eddies, if you will, in the confusion that seem to make sense, that seem like some form of clarity, but it's actually just an eddy. It's just actually a swirling of nonsense, of pointlessness, of meaninglessness, of confusion. And it's like the apparent sense like adds to the confusion, actually. I mean, you know this. You know what I'm talking about. I don't have to tell you this. Like, something seeming to make sense is actually just like, you know, an enhancement of confusion. It makes more confusion. I mean, it doesn't really, but... like, there's no actual more or less confusion. Because there is only nonsense. There's no sense ever. But that meaninglessness can become enfolded into apparent meaning, apparent sense. And of course, this is all like complete, this is a completely compromised way of speaking. It's not true, it's untrue. It's a misinterpretation of everything. It's a twisting around of everything. It's total confusion. Which is really all that can be had. Like, this isn't what you think it is. But also, actually, you don't think this is anything. You don't think at all. There's no thinker. You know, whatever. It could be said that this is all total bullshit. This is bullshit. but there is, in the sense that there's nothing that's not bullshit. But when we say bullshit, we just mean that it's just total illusory, it's total paradox, it's total contradiction. I'm tired and hungry. I think it's time for this to end. Okay, seriously now, bye. Maybe I shouldn't though, you know? Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not actually tired and hungry. That's bullshit. I'm not. I'm just not. This is ridiculous. I have no idea what's going on. And, you know, and it's kind of amazing. I mean, it's cheating, you know. It's cheating to leave off on like a positive tone or a positive note, because it's like that's always that, you know, this is wrong, but that's okay. This is wrong. Like I am this is like a defection. To like leave off on a positive tone, you know, because the idea of like positivity is just like, you know, necessitates the experiencer and the experienced, and it's just not, you know, that's not real. There's no positivity or negativity. I mean, there's like, sort of like, in the sense of speaking, it's like there can only be like negation in the sense of speaking, you know, to the point that there isn't any negation and there isn't any speaking. Of course. But, you know, at the same time, paradoxically, I am getting hungry, and like paradoxically, the speaking is getting more confused. What is the hell's going on? Maybe it is time to just say bye.